Caregiving can sometimes feel like an impossible struggle. Caregivers may be torn between taking care of loved ones and trying to maintain balance in life. The good news is that it doesn't have to be that way. The Caring Generation with host Pamela D Wilson is here to focus on the conversation of caring. You're not alone. In fact, you're in exactly the right place to share stories and learn tips and resources to help you and your loved ones. So now, please welcome the host of The Caring Generation, Pamela D Wilson.
This is Pamela D Wilson, caregiving expert, speaker, consultant, and guardian of the Caring Generation. The Caring Generation focuses on the conversation of caring, giving us permission to talk about aging, the challenges of caregiving, and everything in between. It's no surprise that needing care or becoming a caregiver changes everything. The Caring Generation is here to guide you along the journey to let you know that you're not alone. You are in exactly the right place to share stories and learn about caregiving programs and resources to help you and your loved ones plan for what's ahead. Invite your aging parents, spouses, family, friends, coworkers, and everyone you know to listen to the show. If you have a question or an idea for a future program, share your idea with me by responding to my social media posts on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also go to my website, PamelaDWilson.com, click on the Contact Me tab at the upper right, and complete my caregiver survey. This week, the conversation is about how to avoid putting your needs second in caregiving relationships. When putting yourself second, there are so many factors and elements that result from gender expectations, cultural norms, workplace beliefs, individual experiences, personal needs, values, desires, and dreams. So there really are no easy answers to why putting yourself second happens, but there are solutions to reprioritize you and your life. Time and willingness to change are very important factors. We'll talk about how caregiving relationships and interactions with others result in putting yourself second. Then I'll ask a list of questions to help you learn why or how deprioritizing what you want in life happens and how you can move forward. Because when caregivers are constantly doing for others, they give away their lives, dreams, hopes, and relationships. So let's say you are a caregiver for an aging parent with a behavior habit that sends your emotions skyrocketing. This issue repeats and repeats and repeats, much like a broken record, even though you've made it clear that you no longer want to be involved or can't solve the problem because you didn't create the problem. In this case, let's say that the repeated issue is alcohol addiction. When mom or dad drink, they become angry and mean. They don't eat, may forget to take their medications, go to a doctor appointment, and they blame you for everything that isn't right in their life. As the caregiver, you feel unappreciated, resentful, and conflicted about what to do. You want to be done with caregiving, but others tell you that caring for aging parents is a family obligation. It's your duty. So instead, you feel stuck in an impossible losing situation. How do situations arise that make family caregivers feel guilty for wanting to make their needs a priority? Well, if you are female, there may be beliefs or behavior patterns in your family where women put the needs of others first. You may have watched your mother spend all her time working to fulfill your father's needs and care for the family. So the idea of doing for others and deprioritizing your needs may be part of your life, beginning as a child, that became a behavioral pattern in adulthood. Cultural family beliefs, where expectations that family takes care of family, can lead to adult children caregivers feeling overburdened by parents who expect to live in the same household and be financially supported by their children in old age. This collectivist cultural view passes caregiving responsibilities down from generation to generation. Breaking free can result in separating from family relationships and becoming the black sheep. Then there are also beliefs learned in life situations. For example, a workplace culture that focuses on the idea that hard work is good. Hard work is rewarding. Some professions, like doctors and attorneys, require a lot of working hours and availability 24/7 for patients or clients. Unfortunately, these heavy work demands translate to marriages, family relationships, and personal lives, coming in second, or third, or fourth to the required effort that it takes to succeed in the workplace. Similarly, there are other relationships where family caregivers, desiring to be helpful, continually say yes to requests and find themselves working 24/7 with no additional financial reward besides their primary paid employment. As a result, caregivers sacrifice or trade parts of their lives. Family caregivers eventually become physically or emotionally burned out and resentful when putting their needs second in caregiving relationships. How to avoid putting your needs second in caregiving relationships also relates to the idea of overgiving. Overgiving means giving because you think or hope others, like aging parents or a spouse or siblings, will appreciate your actions. Overgiving can help you feel amazingly good about yourself and may result from moral obligations or social responsibility. For example, being helpful can be a person's way of saying, "I love you." On the other hand, overgiving can come from wanting to feel valued or needed. Overgiving then becomes a bartering relationship where the caregiver wants attention or recognition for their efforts. This type of caregiving can be personally damaging when thoughts of, "Oh, after all I've done for you, you react this way," means that the giver expects the receiver to owe them in some way. Owe them love, owe them appreciation, owe them recognition, owe them a house or a car or other personal effects. Sometimes people overgive because they lack self-esteem or fear loss. Overgiving can be a very addictive behavior. An example of overgiving is giving to encourage people to spend time with you. Maybe you pay for meals or entertainment, or always offer to drive because you have the reliable car. Friends or acquaintances get used to you paying and giving because you never ask them to reciprocate. So, an unrealistic expectation might be set specific to participation rules for this relationship. You didn't realize that relationships have rules, right? Well, they do. So, in this case, as the constant giver, you fear friends won't want to be around you anymore if for some reason you stop giving. What would happen if you lost your job and can't keep paying or driving? Will these friends empathize, take you out to dinner and pay, and be supportive to help you find a new job? If not, that relationship is not reciprocal, but instead superficial and built on a rocky foundation because there was no discussion about equal investment or participation. That being said, relationships shouldn't be tied to giving and expecting something in return, but mutual expectations. We give each other this. You need this, I give. I need this, you give. Another example is, let's link overgiving to a parent inviting a son or daughter to live with them. Mom or dad are motivated by receiving care, so they say, okay, son or daughter, you don't need to work. I will pay all the bills. Instead of discussing expectations or asking questions like, Mom or Dad, why would you want to do this? What do you expect in return from me if you're going to pay all the bills? Moving in with a parent to care for them and not have to work to earn money can sound like a dream if you don't have a job you love or your life isn't going exactly the way you thought it would. That is, until you realize you are 100% dependent on a parent for financial support, housing, and everything that goes along with that. Realize that you'll be working, but for free. Mom or dad will own your life and your schedule if you move in to care for them. Aging parents may turn out to be the ones who say, after all I've given you, you want to spend time with friends, or now you want to get a job? Parents can become overgivers when they feel vulnerable and fearful about needing care. So then what happens when you no longer want to be the caregiver and you no longer want to live in your parents' home? Well, you make a plan to leave. An elderly parent feels abandoned and you feel guilty. How to avoid putting your needs second in a caregiving relationship can relate to emotionally accepting life's realities. By this, I mean finding emotional acceptance that a parent is sick, needs more care than you can provide, and may eventually die. These are things that we don't want to talk about. We stuff our emotions down. We don't want to talk about things that are hurtful, but this is part of life. So what do? You help mom or dad make a plan for their care, and you involve them in the decision, even though they may not agree with or want the change. There are also other situations where aging parents have mental health disorders or addictions. In these situations, sometimes adult children who are caregivers or a spouse does more and more and more because they fear criticism or anger or behaviors toward them. A lot of these behavioral patterns of overhelping or caretaking can relate to parent-child relationships. Children may have felt criticized or maybe felt that they could never do enough to make their parents happy. So what do? They compensated by becoming overachievers in the hopes that parents would be proud of their accomplishments. This may have happened or not. Caregivers can be lifelong overachievers, seeking approval from elderly parents, even though the caregivers live independent lives. On the other hand, some caregivers go above and beyond to care for parents because of the fear that something terrible will happen. As a result, caregivers take on more responsibilities than is practical for anyone to manage. When caregivers do too much, they can become resentful or angry, especially when they watch their siblings who are not caring for aging parents happily go on with their lives. The role of a caregiver can take over a life so much that caregivers forget the person they were before becoming a caregiver. Caregivers in high overdrive may not be able to remember their needs, dreams, or desires because they're constantly going and going and going and doing and doing and doing and giving and giving and giving. How many of you are experiencing any of these situations or feelings? If so, you may be putting yourself second to last. Taking steps to put yourself first without feeling guilty involves being ready for change, planning, initiating change, and carrying forward. Unfortunately, most people, especially elderly parents with expectations of their children, don't discuss expectations and they don't like change. When caregivers are stressed and only focusing on how am I going to survive these next 24 hours, or they think, oh, if I could only get through this, life will be easier or better or simpler. Well, what happens is under this high degree of stress, the brain shuts off and it just reacts. This brain drain is why caregivers become impatient, angry, upset, say things they regret, or forget to complete very important tasks. You leave for the day and you forget your purse or your lunch, or you lose your keys, or you put something down and you can't find it. So as a caregiver, how do you stop putting aging parents and spouses and others ahead of your needs? Stay with me. After the break, I'll share steps to avoid putting your needs second or last in caregiving relationships. This is Pamela D Wilson, caregiver expert, advocate, and author on the caring generation. Check out my website, PamelaDWilson.com, where you can find my online Caregiver 8-module program to care for aging parents. My book, The Caregiving Trap, my caregiver blog, over 150 episodes of this podcast answering caregiver questions, plus articles in my caregiver library. There's a little bit of something for everyone on my website at PamelaDWilson.com. This is Pamela D Wilson, caregiving expert, advocate, and author on the caring generation. Visit my website, PamelaDWilson.com, where there is lots of hope, help, support, and inspiration for caregivers, aging adults, family members, everybody looking for support with caregiving relationships, health, how to navigate the healthcare system, and more. There's something for everyone at PamelaDWilson.com. Let's return to how to avoid putting your needs second in caregiving relationships by posing a few questions. If you are a caregiver who feels last on the list for getting the things you want out of life, ask yourself this series of questions. How much of your time and your life do you own? Or do other people and activities consume the majority of your time, your emotions, and your brain power? If you are a live-in caregiver for an elderly parent, you probably own very little of your life. As we go through life, we lose parts of ourselves because of a desire to fit into social groups at school or work, or we want to make other people happy. If you're a caregiver, what makes you feel good or bad? Caring for an aging parent who is critical, ungrateful, or disrespectful may not feel good. But on the other hand, there may be a great personal reward in caring for an appreciative parent you love, even though you realize you're giving up a lot and you realize that the situation has to change. You realize that it's time to put yourself and your family and your life and your career and everything else first. If you didn't have a close or a positive relationship with a parent when you were young, you might be a caregiver due to a sense of duty or obligation. This generally may not feel good, but by participating, you have peace of mind that you are helping a parent get the care they need and live safely. If you're a caregiver, are you putting your energy into positive or negative activities that contribute to happiness in your life? How can happiness or contentment in daily life result from the use of emotional and physical energy? Positive activities, positive energy might include education, evaluating information to make good decisions, exercising, socializing, self-care related to health, and focusing on achieving personal career goals. Activities that take away from life include feeling stressed, always running behind, not getting enough sleep, feeling angry about all the things you want to accomplish, but you're not, or simply being irritated with family members. How to avoid putting your needs second in caregiving relationships means reducing that stress, resulting from realizing that no matter how great or bad the situation, you don't want to be the caregiver anymore. Surviving each day becomes so much of a priority that you're unable to identify your needs and your dreams and your hopes as a caregiver. What hobbies or interests do you participate in today that are only for you? Most caregivers would respond to that question with, none. Everything I do is for everyone else in my life. When you give all of yourself to work and caring for your family, there is no time for self-care, enjoyable activities, sleeping or eating. All of these lacks negatively affect brain function and your overall health. You may notice that you don't feel as good as you used to. You don't feel as young as you used to. You don't have the energy or the motivation or the interest in life that you used to. Part of changing the activities we prioritize in life relates to accepting and becoming accountable for our choices. Stressed caregivers, as we discussed, lack the emotional and the brain energy needed to solve problems. So instead, time may be committed to drinking, drugs, overeating, shopping, self-isolation, and feeling depressed, which, instead of being positive, are very self-destructive behaviors. But these activities distract you from the problem that remains to be solved. Instead, to move forward, you want to focus on yourself. You have to focus on yourself. Changing your relationship with the role of caregiving you designed may not be easy. In this case, it can be a lot of admitting that the choices you made resulted in less than ideal situations, resulted in the current situation that isn't satisfactory. Making different choices can be challenging and hurt others. Hurting others is a behavior caregivers want to avoid at all costs. So instead of hurting others, caregivers hurt themselves by sacrificing their lives to continually help others. Moving forward takes gaining insight into why you do what you do and how to choose to do things differently. Changing is much better, although it may be a little bit of work, than staying in an unequal relationship that drains your emotional and physical health. But think of this. When caregivers stand up for their needs to other people, they can be shamed, which results in feeling guilty. So getting comfortable with feeling uncomfortable and actually relishing in your guilt and trying to understand it is a requirement to avoid putting your needs second in caregiving relationships. Shame and guilt can relate to other emotions like pain or sadness or anger. Dealing with emotions and personal change can really feel like you've got this mountain to climb. So, kind of how this circle of caregiving begins is, caregivers are feeling a lot of emotions, so instead of solving their problems, they throw themselves into this caregiving project that serves as a distraction. As a result, caregivers can be over-controlling with parents out of a fear that mom or dad's health is going to get worse. Aging and chronic disease contribute to declines when parents get older that in many cases are manageable but are unlikely to improve. If your parent has a lot of health conditions, the best you can expect is to manage them. Going backwards to improve them may not be possible if a lot of time has happened since the diagnosis. And the problem is, once a person has a health diagnosis, and this is researched, once you have high blood pressure, you're more likely to have diabetes or breathing problems or another condition. So in a sense, one chronic disease leads to the next and the next and the next and complicates needing care and caregiving situations. The next question, is the person you care for stubborn or difficult? If so, you may be trying to tell a parent how to live by controlling their daily activities, what they should think, what they should do, how they should respond. Now, this might seem a little bit odd when actually creating routines for parents can be a very positive activity to support health and well-being. But here's the gap. Think of our earlier conversation about paying for activities to motivate friends to spend time with you. A parent may be trying to please a caregiver. So what do? They participate in activities, but then they respond with resentment and anger or criticism because they feel stuck in a corner. They know that if they don't do what you want them to do, you're not going to help them, and they need your help. More steps to avoid putting your needs second in caregiving relationships combine the idea of exerting emotional and self-control. The more you concentrate on how you respond to situations and what you can do, versus thinking that life is coming at you and people are doing things to you, that you're receiving all of this bad stuff, the more that you can balance that emotionally and logically, the better you'll feel. You won't all of a sudden snap when something happens. You'll think, well, let me investigate this. How should I think about this? Is this really what's happening? Because many times it's not. It's just it's like you get hit in the face by a problem and you feel like you have to react and think the worst. When you believe that you have more choices about what you think, how you react, how you respond, and you begin making these choices, you distance yourself from fighting to survive and focusing on all the parts of life that you've lost, focusing on all the negatives. Think of survival this way. When you have to survive, you might make choices that you would never make if life was easy because you feel pressured, you feel pushed up against a wall, you feel that you don't have choices. So what happens, you may stay in an abusive caregiving relationship or a harmful relationship of any type, or continue to be that 24/7 caregiver with an aging parent or a spouse because you feel that there's no other options and your brain is so distracted and tired that you can't even think of what to do next. When you move from this survival mode, from fight and flight to being thoughtful about your actions, you choose to become more aware of why things happen. And then you can take responsibility for identifying how you participate in your behavior patterns. By realizing that behaviors are helpful or not helpful, you can decide that you're ready for change. You can decide what you want to change. You move your attention and your energy from negative to positive. But this stage between survival and being ready and willing for change can be difficult because you have to confront your feelings and experience some pain at some point so that you can move past the pain, past the fear. You might experience teary episodes or emotional breakdowns while you're alone in the bathroom or sitting in your car, driving your car, where you might feel safe because no one sees how you feel, so you let your emotions go. Readying for change involves thinking about losses. What you believe you will have to give up can be horrible. It can be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to do this. Or maybe it's not so bad. So, what are you willing to give up to create the life that you desire? Creating the life of your dreams may mean learning how to reintegrate into that life you left behind by unpacking and working through all the emotional baggage that drug you down, that you don't need anymore. You leave behind the drama of old situations and people that were emotionally draining, that swung your emotions up and down and back and forth and inside out and backwards. Initiating change may mean a little bit of forward and backward movement. How often have you made progress toward a goal, only to revert to old behaviors that make you feel comfortable or behaviors that you know how to manage? Recognizing this back and forth makes it easier to take one step back and another step forward and continue to make progress. Taking care of yourself while caring for others means learning to be okay with being alone and establishing a foundation as an individual person with needs, desires, dreams, and hopes for a better life. Initially, this may mean learning to do things by yourself that might feel really scary. So how do you start putting your needs first in caregiving relationships? Well, you decide that you're ready for change, and you commit to putting in the effort no matter what it takes. Value your needs. Create priorities. Write down a plan and a timeline to hold yourself accountable so that you can see the progress that you make day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. Your life could look totally different in a matter of months or in a matter of years. Then announce the changes that you're going to make to the people that you care for, to your family. Because until you say, I don't like this, nope, it's time for a change, the elderly parent or spouse or friends you care for will think that everything is okay when it's not. Family members, including your siblings, have gotten used to you being available and taking care of everything. Why wouldn't they? You've made it so easy for everyone else to go on with their lives, but you've put a roadblock in your way. As that caregiver, you threw out that floatable lifesaver, and everybody else jumped on for the ride. Now that you want to change this comfortable situation, mom, dad, husband, wife, spouse, siblings, they're pretty unhappy because your actions created expectations. You were going to be the one to handle it all. You were going to take care of it all. But now their comfort zone is being disrupted. It might feel like their life is unraveling, as well as yours, when you pull apart the situation that you created and that they participated in. Remember, you didn't do this all alone. Your parents created their life, created their health issues, created maybe their need for care. Others accepted what you had to offer and they got really comfortable, never thinking that the situation might change because you didn't set expectations or boundaries about activities or timeframes. A lack of discussing expectation often happens because you didn't realize the importance of having an exit plan for your life or for caregiving. We all know caregivers have difficulty talking about their needs and asking for help because we want to be helpful. For this reason, many caregivers become stuck, putting their needs second to last in caregiving relationships. Change is about awareness and taking responsibility for actions instead of blaming other people or life circumstances. As a caregiver seeking change and prioritizing your life, you begin controlling your thoughts and emotions. You eliminate thoughts and behaviors and people and things that no longer benefit you. How to avoid putting your needs second or last in caregiving relationships means to committing to love and care for yourself. Gratitude is one of the best replacements for anger. Acknowledging participation in life situations is the path to change. Don't allow criticism or the opinions of family members or friends or acquaintances and coworkers to make you doubt that you are worthy of having or creating a good life, because you are worthy. When you believe that you have a lot of life in front of you and remain positive and take action, you'll realize that you are this wonderful, amazing person who has accomplished great things in contributing to the care of a loved one. But now it's time for a change. It's time for you. Find peace in the actions you're about to take and the amazing new world and the opportunities you're about to explore. Thank you all for continuing to post questions for this podcast and the videos I share on my YouTube channel. Go to my YouTube channel. There are hundreds of videos there. This is Pamela D Wilson, family caregiving expert on the caring generation. If you're looking for answers to caregiving and aging questions, visit my website, PamelaDWilson.com, where you'll find my library, online caregiver courses, my blog, my book, plus this extensive online program that answers a lot of caregiving questions. I look forward to being with you all again very soon. God bless you all. Sending love to everyone. Sleep well tonight. Have a fabulous day tomorrow, and enjoy each day until we are here together again.
Tune in each week for The Caring Generation with host Pamela D Wilson. Come join the conversation and see how Pamela can provide solutions and peace of mind for everyone. Here on Pamela D Wilson's The Caring Generation.